This video is sponsored by LumiCube. You probably click on this video because you have the burning question of how do you light your setup effectively? More specifically, how do you even place your light or even what exact lights to buy? So in this video, we're going to talk about now whether you're putting together your setup right now, planning for the future, or just not happy with what you have, lighting can be a major frustration. At least that's exactly how I felt when I was planning for my setup. Not gonna lie, I was a little bit frustrated seeing those amazing setups on YouTube and on Instagram and not getting the same result and being kind of confused as to what exactly am I missing? But then I went back to my lighting principles that I learned in filmmaking and watching YouTubers like Behr, Valentina V on the Aperture channel, and I watched countless of hours of those type of channels, and I soaked up a lot of knowledge over the time. So applying those fixed my lighting completely, and that's what I'm going to share with you today, because lighting is so crucial, being that that's the only thing that the camera sensor sees and exactly what makes your setup pop. So today I'll show you how to master the lighting principles to transform your setup. And yes, we are going to talk about the products to use. More importantly, we'll cover the why. Once you understand these principles, you'll be able to light up your setup, and no matter which positioning or how your room is even laid out. And anything I mentioned on this video is going to be linked below. And just a disclaimer, those are affiliate links. So anything you purchase through them, I will be getting a kickback at no additional cost to you. And that's a direct support to my channel. So I appreciate you for doing that. Okay, so to make this video easier to follow, I'm going to break it down to 3 categories: key light, ambient light, and practical light. And inside of each category, I'll tell you which lights I recommend use and where you can place them. Oh, and a quick disclaimer, even though there are things in your setup that you can get away with being budget, believe me, lighting is not one of them. I tried it and it didn't work. So if there's one place you want to invest besides your chair or even your monitor, it's definitely light. And by the way, if this is your first time here in the channel, my name is Kamar Salizi. I cover this setups, tech, and just things that I'm trying out and I'm liking around my setup and around my way of living. If you like to see more of that or you resonate with something like that, make sure you subscribe and be a part of the gang. And I'm going to make a big announcement really soon that's going to help you that are trying to put your setup and you just can't get answers or problems solved. So make sure you follow me on Instagram. So stay tuned. Okay, kicking things off, the first category is the key light. This is the main light that illuminates your subject. In this case, your desk or your setup. Your desk needs an incredible amount of light, especially if you want to shoot content or just want it to look good. The key light defines the overall mood, texture, and direction of lighting in a shot. By placing the key light at different angles, you can create various effects and shadows, adding depth and dimension to your space. There are 3 types of key lights that you can use, and one is a monitor light bar, a desk light, or a continuous LED, also known as video light. So for the monitor light bar, which goes exactly where it says above the monitor, you can use one like a BenQ Screen by Halo or the Screen by Halo Pro that just came out. It has adjustable brightness and light temperature control. There are few good options on Amazon, but make sure it emits a soft light and not a harsh one to avoid those harsh lights with harsher shadows. Another type of light is a desk light. So shout out to LumiCube for sending these over for me to test it out. And they also send other products that I'll tell you about it in a minute. But even though they sent this out to me, I'm entitled to my opinion. So let me tell you about it. So this is their Edge light, and it comes in 2 versions, a desk lamp and a stand version. But I went with the desk lamp version to save some space on my desk. It has a 6-inch diameter LED that emits 700 lumens or 30 watts of power, and it can go from 2700 Kelvin to 7500 Kelvin, and the light is adjustable. And a plus is that it can also charge your other devices that you might have on your desk. Another attractive feature, it's the pivot points that lets you angle the light anywhere in your space and can kind of fold away whenever you're not used. So it comes in black and white. Obviously I went with the black version because of the style of my setup. And a quick side note, the desk light is super useful as well if you have a very dark setup, and it kind of also helps with video calls. So if you're in and out of meetings like I am and you have a very dark room like I do, it sucks a lot of light. So having a key light that is right above you and doesn't take a lot of real estate, especially if you have a softbox like this that I don't really have to use on that scenario, it comes in very clutch. Now, even though the light bar and the LumiCube Edge light gives sound light, these are more directly on top of your desk. So if you're working on longer hours or even just late at night, Those are great to help you reduce eye strain as well, but it doesn't necessarily light the entirety of the desk. So this next types of light, that's actually what's going to help lit up your desk all around. And we're going to start with the Lume Cube Stud Light Panel Kit. I've been using this every day for the past couple of months. They actually gave me some time to test them out, and I'm shooting content and it adds dimension and texture to my shots. These two panels provide 1800 lumen and they come with their lightweight stands that helps you move around. They're also dimmable, of course, and temperature adjustable, but you can also use them plug if you want them to last longer or just doing a longer shoot. They come with these cool barn doors that let you craft and control the light and the shadows, and that helps me be more precise on where exactly to shine the light. So if I'm lighting my desk, I could use one on each side, or simply to create more dimension, I will do both on a 45-degree angle to the side of my desk. And a bigger and better option, of course, is going to be a much more powerful video light with a large softbox. I use the Amaran 200X to light my entire setup, and is attached to a 34-inch softbox with a grid to keep the light from spilling all over the place. The name of the game is controlled lighting, so it keeps the key light focused on the desk as much as possible to allow other lights to shine. When choosing your softbox, go for larger options, because the larger the light source, the softer the light. And my Amaran sits on a C-stand to give a more flexibility to angle the light in many ways to create different textures, so depending on how I decide to shoot that specifically shot or content. Oh, and I know it looks very weird just with a key light, but stay with me. We're gonna progress and put together all these lights together in the end. So the second category is ambient light. These lights illuminate the space without being directly visible. It provides a general illumination and helps create a base level of light that evenly fills the space. For example, a light bar behind your desk or monitor. I advise placing enough ambient light to make your setup pop and separate it from the background or your wall. Govee light bars or light strips work really great for this. They are cost effective compared to Philips Hues and still provide the same amount of quality. But one good option is the M1 light strips that has 60 LEDs per meter and their modern light bars. When choosing light strips, make sure it has the highest amount of LEDs per meter. So stay away from anything that has less than 60 LEDs per meter to avoid weak LEDs and those dots. Those are very annoying and is not the best quality. And a rule of thumb with Govee, I noticed that on their package, if it doesn't say the amount of LEDs per meter, that means it's less than 60 LEDs. So stay away from those. Go with the M1 or with a Philips Hue if you're into the Philips system. Govee doesn't pay me to say this, doesn't pay me to use my lights, but it's just one system that I got into and I liked. And thankfully, it was around the time that when they stepped up and they improved their light. So that's what I have around my setup. And when it comes to my lights, I very much like the idea to log into one app that controls the most amount of lights as possible. Oh, and in some instances, natural light from a big window can serve both as ambient or a key light. It just depends on how much of it do you have available. It's a light source that you can control because it's a gift from Mother Nature. So if you have it, you can still use it. Just make sure that depending on how much you have, you can make a decision if you're going to use it as an ambient light or as a key light. So for your monitor, you can use the Govee monitor bars. By the way, in case you're using an ultra wide monitor, I place my bars horizontally instead of vertically, how they're designed to be used to avoid awkward hotspots, because I tried this before and I didn't really like it. So I figured try it this way and it's worked out pretty well. But one thing you want to do is you want to supplement with an LED light strip to fill in those spots, whatever those light bars can reach. And like I said, Govee is stepping up on their LED game and those work well for me, especially their upper lineup that produce the specific amount of white for warm colors or even orange. In my case, I need that because you see my setup, that's my vibe. I can see where it lacks when I tried other lights that will give me a yellow instead of an orange. Take it from me. If you go with Govee, go with this option. If not, there's Philips Hues. If you find other options as well, make sure you go with those. But that's the category where I would place some LED strips that are not visible. And I'll tell you in a minute what I mean by not visible. Okay, this one got me with mixed feelings just because I had a bad experience with it. But you can also place light strips at the bottom of your desk. When you route them, just make sure you are away from the edge of your desk, unlike what I did before. Because if you do that, you are going to sacrifice the option to clamp anything around the bottom of your desk. And that was just me going through the experience of putting together my first Behr setup. I couldn't clamp anything around my desk. So if you do that, make sure you do it away from the edge so you have enough clamp space. And for other ambient light, is just look around other areas of your office that need a little bit more light and just add a little bit more depth to those spaces. Now, the third category is the most important category to me, and these are practical lights. These are visible on camera. They provide light practically without overpowering your shot, and it serves both as functional and aesthetic purpose. They add atmospheres and highlight specific areas and contribute to the overall mood of the scene while appearing as natural part of the environment. One thing though, these lights should be dimmable to avoid overpowering the rest of the lights. And some forms of practical lights are desk lamps, tube lights, rope light, and candles as well. And just a clear example of what a practical light is are the tube lights that you can see and the LED that you can see on my wall. Any light that you can visually see in any video shot or photography, that is called practical light. It's not necessarily producing the glow that you see, but because you see it, it kind of tricks your brain into thinking that that LED strip right there is what's producing the orange glow. No, those are what we covered on the previous category, the ambient light. The ambient light are the ones that are producing that glow. But to make your brain kind of make sense why that ambient light exists, you need a practical light. That's why I have those tube lights right there, those tube lights, and that rope light on the wall. And my secret weapon is the light tube from LumeCube that is on the right on my. This is an app control full feed tube light that also has full color RGBs. It comes with 7 pre-programmed special effects and customizable frequency setting, an impressive CRI rating of 96 plus, and a whopping 3400 lumens of light output. This thing is bright. It stays on for a long time if you have it on low intensity, and can stay even longer if you use it plugged. And I'm not gonna lie, this light is not cheap. It's a little bit of a high-end light, and it comes in a protective case with a power strip and a metal tripod stand. And besides the app, you can also use the physical controls to dial the intensity, effects, the CCT settings for warm or cooler tones, or Eggshell for RGB using the LCD screen display that comes on the tube light. And on the very top, it also shows the amount of hours of battery left with the current intensity. And on the other side of my setup, I also have a Govee neon rope light, and this one I placed in between my slat walls because it was important to have some practical light on this side of the room as well. Otherwise, it would feel like a dark corner. Even though there's ambient light going to it, it will still give the indication to be a dark corner. So I wanted to make sure I filled up that space. And to the very end, I use a smaller tube light. This one is by Ambient Lights, brand that I found on Amazon, and it has similar functions to the tube light that I just mentioned. It's just not as bright, but it still gives out great RGB colors, and it's true to the whites, it's true to the warm colors, and it helps me add more to the visual interest around the setup. And directly on my desk, I use one LED in the shape of a mushroom. I actually call it a mushroom light, and a koala light. Like I said, this is where you have a lot of creative freedom as long as these lights don't add a ton of brightness. They just complement the space. So you don't need super bright lights here. You just need somewhat of a quality light. Okay, another thing that you want to introduce in these categories are props that light up. Those are actually things that can help tell a story or even help express your personality. So for example, Art Sabers sent me this replica Luke Skywalker lightsaber, and it's one of the dopest things I've ever seen. I'm a fan of the Star Wars series, and my favorite thing on the Star Wars series are the Jedi. So why not have a lightsaber? And this one comes in a very nice hard case, and once you open it, you see the lights, the tube light, and the unit that houses the speakers, battery, and all the effects. It's very easy to attach the tube light to the unit. The very interesting thing is that it has a single button that has different controls that helps you choose the color of your saber, the type of effects of when the saber lights up, the sounds, and even pre-recorded audios from the series. I just don't know how to pull up everything and control everything. It actually took me a while to actually learn how to manage these things, but so far I know how to change my colors. I know how to take volume off. It can also be muted. I know how to change the effects, how the lights come up, but it's super cool. And I can do a more detailed video on this. You guys just need to put in the comments below. And Art Sabers were super cool to send this over, so shout out to them. And this also comes with a stand, but since I wanted it to be on the side of my wall, I picked up a lightsaber stand from Amazon, and I attached the left side of my set, again, to serve as a prop and a practical light, and also gives off ambient lighting when it's on. Now, as I promised, putting all this together, this is how it looks like. You have your key light, your ambient light, and your practical light. And one bonus tip, if you happen to shoot content, you want to have all 3 lights present at any angle you point your camera to for the best looking image. And you can apply these principles directly to any setup you have. If it's a more RGB or a more darker or just a white and clean setup, you want to have all these 3 lights present every time you do this. My Instagram recently went viral. I went from like 2 or 4,000 followers to like 60,000 in like 2 weeks. So it was wild out of one video. And the burning question that everybody asked the most is, oh my God, your videos are so high quality. What do you shoot with? What are your settings? What are your lighting settings? What are your exporting settings? What do you use? I'm like, my secret is lighting. I hardly do anything, and I downgraded all my editing process to just using an iPhone 15 Pro. Shout out Apple. This thing surprisingly has really great quality if you know what you're doing. Again, just hone on your lighting. Nothing beats lighting. Everything that this camera sees is lighting. So you fix that, you pay attention to that, and in my opinion, in my experience, it will fix pretty much more than half the battle. And again, for my content creators out there, I hope this video wasn't either too boring or, it just flew by you. Take this seriously. It took me some time to put this video together because I wanted to make sure I'm explaining exactly how I did it and how you can as well. Even though, again, you're going very minimal or very RGB, apply these principles carefully. Think about your key light, think about your ambient light and your practical light. And if you're creating content, or let's say you're submitting your video to Setup Wars, right? Or you just want to have a dope setup that you want to share on Instagram, make sure you have that. Some people that I see out there, they do a very great job at having RGB and ambient lighting, but no key light. If you don't have a key light, your camera doesn't have a way to capture what you actually want to show or how you want to show. So what sets apart most setups out there are setups that I see all these elements. And one cool practical light that I didn't mention as well, and I see it on the channel of my friends Patrick Rumbles and Sam, is a neon light. If you have a saying, a word, a phrase that you want to display, put in a neon light. Those are cool because they don't get to be extremely bright, so they are cool for practical lights. That was just another tip I wanted to throw in there. Hope you liked this video. I hope it was informational enough. If you have any questions, put in the comments below. Let's continue the conversation there. And I hope to see your setup. Again, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and shoot me a DM with your setup or improvements that this video helped directly on your setup or on your content. And that being said, this is it. See you guys in the next one. Peace.